Okay, folks, going to do this video on my dedicated tomato bed. I mentioned supplemental water, and we do supplemental water. We don't give things as much as we probably should. We definitely, but we if we're trying to get yield. Some crops die even when we give them water because we just won't give as much as it necessarily needs. It's kind of a sink or swim. Like there's a limit to how much care I'll give it. It's I guess you could call it tough love. So this bed, it gets supplemental water. It's a tomato bed, and in the area that we grow in, well, the max temperature that I've seen on my porch this summer with a mercury thermometer was 114 degrees Fahrenheit. So that gives you an idea, and it gets quite a bit of sun. The only shade that it gets will be from this female tree that I have been reducing in size. At first, it was too large to grow tomatoes here and get any type of yield. And now we get yield, during this stage 5 drought and heat wave, it was actually too small. Like the things that did well were the things that got the most shade. I'll also say that tomatoes, from what I've seen, they pretty much stop producing flowers altogether once the temperature gets above a certain level. So the middle of our summer, we never get tomatoes. It's the spring and the fall that we get tomatoes. So it's starting to cool off a little bit. We're starting to get flowers again. I want to show this bed, see what survived. You'll see these sunflowers. I've mentioned them in other videos. I wanted to show you the back side of the bed. This is the walkway from the back side because there's tomatoes growing through the back side. And they seem to seek that out. They like that shade here. So, and you can see that there's Malabar spinach growing back here. It's starting to seed. And this is where I ended my backline video with the blue flowers, that section. So let's come down the front. You can see a big Malabar spinach vine, and we use this is another use for the sunflowers, living trellis. It likes that. It's a very large jalapeno. This is about 3 foot high. We've got the Malabar. It's just as happy on the ground, cradling a set of oregano here. You can see the oregano actually goes pretty far back. My shadow doesn't shade it out. There. You see there's asparagus. You can see there's right there. So we have asparagus growing in there, and there's your tomato stem and your tomato growing here. And there's asparagus, which also serves as trellis for the Malabar spinach. I will say this bed does need something that fixes nitrogen in it because a lot of these crops take fertilizer out of the soil, but it seems to be pretty happy growing this way. Very little interference, and you can see there's a tomato, which is nice in this heat. Even though it has cooled off, like right now I'm standing, it's probably about 95 degrees. You see we're getting flowers again, tomato flowers. You can see a big spot of asparagus, and I don't see the tomato. Here's another tomato down here. We got a blackberry growing up through the middle of it. That's a runner from over here. I'm going to include this in the tomato bed. It's really kind of the back line. The reason why I didn't do this bed when I did the backline videos because there's a lot in it. It's pretty dense. We've got comfrey down here on the edge of the bed there, and what I'm standing in is a walkway here, and on the left we have Bermuda trying to creep in, but we use the comfrey as a rhizome barrier. You can see there's another thornless blackberry and we have the Malabar around this tree. There's another jalapeno on the edge of the bed. I'm trying to make sure I don't miss anything. And we have wild strawberry right there in the bed. The places that it lived are the places that get the least amount of sun. We had a huge patch right here, but in this drought, that spot died out. But since it spreads, the spots that get more shade, it grows quite well. And I don't know if you can see it up under there. It's going up under there. It loves it up in there in that shade. More blackberry, thornless. So let's see, growing around the asparagus, loving the trellis. Okay, and another tomato coming out here. Let's see. Tomato. Come down in here. And more blackberry shoots. And you can dig these up and pot them. Use them as backups. I think we're going to leave these if they're not interfering. There's asparagus sprouts. So you can see asparagus sprouting from seed back there. More oregano. Like a carpet here. Coming around. Asparagus. Of course, you see the sunflowers. I've already mentioned the tomato. We're getting to the end of the bed, folks. Okay, and a little dwarf red rose. And another thornless blackberry shoot. There was a comfrey here. I'm documenting it so that way I know to plant one for next year because I want one there. And then we're on to this blackberry bed. I'm going to go ahead and include it in this video. Thornless blackberry here and there. Not a lot of crops in there. We've got some oregano. Let's see if it still made it through the summer. Right here. It made it. It's down there like a rung real low. Of course, you've seen the thornless blackberry. We got a quince down here. Okay, got some of those native blue flowers that I love so much. And another thornless blackberry. There is some dormant wild onion, dormant garlic in here. And this little white flower is, I believe, chives. Let me just check that. Yeah, that's chive. And behind this is one of the spots where I've spread Jerusalem artichokes. So what you see back here behind the bed will be Jerusalem artichokes. Hopefully we can get that spread back there and start breaking this soil up. It's very rocky here. And this is the native wild blackberry that I showed a video on the front yard. I have a couple of them in pots that I propagated from here, and I've not given it a drop of water, and it seems to be doing okay. And it was planted this year, so high hopes for this guy. And that should finish what I call the tomato bed, the remainder of the back line. Mentions this tomato bed is roughly 2 foot by 15 foot. And the section with the blackberries is, well, that one's tough because, well, the full bed can be quite large. So let's see, the full bed can come out this far, but nothing is hardly planted out this far. As far as the planted part, it's roughly 2 foot by 10 foot. If you count all the way down to where that wild blackberry is, then it's probably 15 foot between this post, with the end of what I call the tomato bed, to where the blackberry is, the wild blackberry. Now, if I count the bed as far as it can go, it will eventually go this far and a little bit behind it, about a foot or so behind it, maybe 18 inches behind it. Approximately 6 foot wide. So it gives you an idea of how much space there is and how much more we can fit in there. Now, and when I gave those dimensions on the tomato, I did not mention this part. Eventually, we'll have this rhizome barrier, and we're just going to keep pushing it out. The grass actually used to be all the way up in here, and we've just been gradually using the method that I use to just keep pushing it out and killing it. And we'll just keep doing that and planting crops and rhizome berries as we go.